Yeah, so I want to dig into Vincent's comment about basically what you're saying is the resistance is futile government. So there is very little that the conventional government can do about what's happening out there, the whole decentralization movement. I think it's a pretty strong statement, and my heart is with you. Now, intellectually, I have a hard time believing that the governments will not do anything about it, because I think it really goes to the core of why even government exists today. So assuming what you're telling us is really what's happening, then what should the conventional government do? I mean, their entire job, their existential purpose is to control. Their mission is to regulate, and now we're saying that entire sort of that could be decentralized and automated. So then what is the role of government?
I would challenge
Marc?
you on the idea that the purpose of government is to control. I think the temptation has been to control, that you want, I mean, there's a human temptation to self-promote as the emperor or the dictator and try to accumulate power, right? The purpose of government should really be to allow people to be safe, to have a fair shot at life, somehow use the system to somehow palliate to some of the shortcomings that we might have. A family member dies, and provide some help to generate, provide some equity. So I think that's the main purpose of government. So the next question is, what's the best way to achieve that purpose? Is that control? Is that having a king or a dictator? Or is there a better way to go about it, more democratic, more decentralized?
I think that right now, government, as Michel Foucault says, governments were created as disciplinary tools. You do this and you won't get disciplined. You do that and you'll go to prison. You'll be put away in a space. And now we have an opportunity to change that dynamic. You're right. It's not, government's role has to change because it can't regulate. And so now maybe government becomes more of a morality play than a disciplinary play, which is frightening in and of itself, considering politicians. But that might be the way we move forward with AI.
I'm kind of a dystopian over here. I do feel that government's role is to regulate and not to protect people to a large extent. Hey, you have 9/11, and all of a sudden everybody in America goes with duct tapes around their windows, right? Let's remember that. What I believe, I think there will be jurisdictions, and actually it is this week on May 25 that the European Union introduces the General Privacy Data Regulation, which was a big, big step. And it was the result of all these lawsuits against Facebook and Google in Europe in the last 3 years. I was talking to Anne Cavoukian, the previous Privacy and Security Commissioner of Ontario recently, and she's very, very, very happy and very proud about the work done by the European Union. So inevitably, if you have like a place, the European Union doing major strides towards privacy, protecting the individual, then the US is going to follow, Canada is going to follow, other countries are going to follow inevitably because we live in a globalized world. But I do feel and I do fear that essentially government is going to try to take this thing down. And it's very easy to the argument that you said. If Security Exchange Commission comes and says everybody who uses Bitcoin, he's a criminal, nobody's going to be touching it. People are going to fear, right? Masses that go herding together. So it's easy for them. But they know the balance that if they overregulate, then other places will leave this open. In Japan, it's already legal tender, the whole concept, right? So it's very interesting times where we're going, and I would like to believe that just like the music industry, our rights and freedoms, they will be transformed for a better place moving forward.
Well, I think for governments, one of the things to do is to realize that you can view a blockchain as an opportunity, right? So in particular, blockchain gives you sort of a level of transparency and a democratic system, right? And the governments that are really standing up for these principles can use the blockchain to highlight that they're transparent, that they support the democratic system, a proper voting process, and a consensus process. So I think they should realize that this is just an opportunity for them.
Vincent?
Yeah, I have a lot of things to say, but I think we have 13 minutes, so I'll keep it short and then I'll shut up, right? First, I don't buy the premise that governments, we need to stop pretending that governments are a force for good all the time, right? This is the assumption that I think is just incorrect. We're in Canada, and I think the Canadian government's pretty good. I'm from the US, and generally we're not as good, right? So we need to stop pretending governments are a force for good. The second thing is, I don't like this pessimistic view of AI and ML, right? When I think about this kind of stuff, and I think we should all have a more optimistic view of technologies. Instead of viewing AI as something to be controlled, why not view this as, let's use AI to solve the real problems, whether it's climate change, environmental damage, things like decoding the human genome. AI is a force for good too, right? And we could spend a lot of time talking about that instead of focusing on things like AI is this force that needs to be controlled because X, Y, and Z. So those are a couple points that I want to inject into this conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like if I give you 1 hour, you could probably fill the entire hour talking about your views.
Fair.